We all love Omega Strikers so far. It's fun, it's great, but it could be better. Here are 11 changes that would vastly improve Omega Strikers. The sixth one's probably the most annoying one, and you'll see why in just a bit, but starting off with goal replays. This one seems so obvious to put in. In Rocket League, after a goal is scored, they show a short slow-mo replay of what happens in that game. Now, I'm not saying that they should show this every single time a goal is scored, but at least part of the time, because sometimes we just want to relive that epic moment. To improve upon the system, maybe they could add a vote to skip the goal replay while everyone's emoting after a goal is scored. This is such a fast-paced game that being able to stop and enjoy a really nice goal would be a fresh change of pace. This next one really bothers me too. They need to add double forward queue. Not being able to queue up as two forwards is kind of dumb, so they force you to play one forward and one flex if both of you are forward players. If this is about having quicker queue times at higher ratings, then let us be in charge of that. We should be able to choose what roles we want to play, and I don't mind waiting 10 minutes if I'm able to queue up as double forward when I'm playing with my friend who only plays forward. Forcing someone to flex when they don't want to play goalie or are horrible at it is really silly. Me myself, for example, I'm probably 1 or 2 tiers worse at goalie than I am at forward because I just never really play it, and it's not a position that I was meant to be in. The skill set for forwards and goalies are completely different, and we all know how easily games are decided because one team has an autofill goalie and the other team has been playing goalie the entire time Omega Strikers has been out. The next topic I want to talk about is the champion selection phase. Right now we pick simultaneously as the other team, so first picks pick first, then both second picks pick next, and then both last picks pick last. However, I just want to add 2 small changes to this. First, I want to be able to trade champions after the third champion is selected with some of my teammates. There are some champion matchups that I just don't really want to play when I'm first picked, so I just cannot play my main character in a lot of those cases. However, if they don't end up picking them, maybe my last pick player can pick that instead and we could trade at the end. Right now, you're stuck with whichever pick order you get, so it's best to main something that's kind of like a safe pick rather than a situational one. Now, I'm not all about criticizing the game. Let's give them some compliments to the champion selection phase as well. I love how they have bans chosen before the game even begins. This saves so much time. I also like how you could show who your main champion is, so when you get into the game, you could tell what your teammates are playing without them needing to select anything. My one change I want for this is I don't want to get into a game when I am banning someone else's main champion because I didn't know they were going to be on my team. For example, when I am solo or duo queuing, maybe I want to ban Juliet. But then sometimes a Juliet main is going to go into my game. I can tell this happens because Juliet is the ban selected by me and my teammate, and then some other random champion is banned. Then remember how I mentioned you could see which champions your teammates like to play because I selected them before the game? Well, now that champion is blank because their champion is banned, so that's how I know that they were Juliet mains. I simply don't want to be put in these games where I ban out my teammate's best character. Maybe this was just a huge coincidence, maybe they took my teammate's ban and then the opponent's banned Juliet instead, but this happens way too often for it to be kind of coincidental. Again, you can tell every time this happens because their champion selection would show nothing there. Maybe add into the matchmaking algorithm to not match you up with those players when you ban their champions. It's nothing against them, but I'm willing to wait longer in the queue time if I know my teammates are playing whoever they actually want to play. Next, let's talk about the UI. Obviously, we already know this, there are a lot of UI improvements that could be put in. The game has a lot of customization options, which is great, but it's very unclear about how to find every customization menu for each character. Let's start with the Customize button on the top left. This menu allows you to pick skins, explosions, and reactions for your characters. However, if you want to change your trainings, even though there's a Select Striker button down here, you can't actually do it here. Instead, you have to click your name at the very top and center of your screen, which doesn't really make much sense at all. After that, you click forward, goalie, or flex, and then create a new training right there. When I'm in voice chat with a lot of different players, they often ask me, where do I even change my training? And it just doesn't make sense that it's right here. Next, let's talk about your profile. To access your profile, you have to click into settings, and then click profile, and then make all the adjustments there. Why don't they have all the customizations in the Customize menu? Next, let's go into some inconsistencies within the Customize menu because as great as it is, it still has its own issues. So you may notice we have the Change Striker button down here, and you can adjust the explosions for each of your characters. For example, when I play X, I like having one of the X KO explosions down here. However, when I'm playing something like Juno, I want something a little more colorful, such as the strike like lightning goal expression or maybe the orbital force. You can choose to equip the explosion to a specific champion like Juno or equip it to everyone, which is great. However, for reactions, why don't they have this option as well? You're actually only allowed to have one emoticon palette no matter which champion you play. But if I'm playing Dubu, I want to fill up all my slots with Dubu emotes. Then, when I'm playing Juno, I definitely want all my Juno emotes. But you'll notice, after we add in all our Juno emotes here, once we change our striker to, let's say, X, the same emoticon palette is still there, meaning that we can only have one palette no matter which champion we play. It doesn't make sense that you could have custom explosions, but not custom reactions. Now, let's touch on something we looked at before, which is what happens after a goal is scored. Right now, they have a very cool overlay for power play goals when you knock someone out first and then score a goal. But then why don't they have any goal overlay when you score a shorthanded goal? Meaning when one of your teammates get knocked out and you clutch a 2v3 or even a 1v3. It's just a regular goal overlay, which is kind of boring considering shorthanded goals are much more difficult than power play goals. Let's go ahead and celebrate this. Maybe we could even add some voice lines mocking some enemies while we're at it. And don't get me wrong, guys, I am loving the voice lines so far already. There are a lot of custom interactions between each character, which is very lacking in a lot of other games. So let me know down in the comments which is your favorite voice line and how you activate it. My favorite so far is Juno when she scores a goal and she just goes like... Now let's get into what is pissing me off the most. When I played in one of the previews, all of the champions were unlocked, which I get it. It makes a lot of sense because they want everyone to try everything new. But then once the game came out, only 4 champions were unlocked. I get it, they need to make their money, so it's fine to have some champions that you need to pay for and some that are free, and not needing to use actual money to pay for the game, which they do, so I really respect them for that. However, all the paid for champions all cost 10,000 until a new champion came out, which cost 25,000. Now, I want you guys to tell me a game where a new champion costed 2.5 times more than all the other champions. The game developers come from League of Legends. League of Legends, they have different tiers of champions. The brand new champions will cost 7,800 of their in-game currency, and that is only for the first week, after which they'll be reduced to 6,300. After that, there are a couple other tiers, 4,800, 3,150, 1,350, and 450. In League of Legends, the average price of a champion is around 3,800 of their in-game currency. The median price is 4,800. This means that new champions are only 1.6 times more expensive than the median, and 2 times more expensive than the average. However, after the first week, it drops down to 1.3 times the price of the median champion price and 1.6 of the average. Compare this to Omega Strikers, where it costs 2.5 times as much for new champions compared to the old ones. I really hope this pattern does not continue onto the future because if I could guess, it would only get worse from here. However, let's not be too critical of these game developers. Let me point out one thing that they did well with the pricing. So far, their pricing for their champions, trainings, and emotes are all pretty rounded numbers, which is great because it makes it a lot easier to know how much you need to save for a bunch of new stuff when things come out in the future. A lot of people also think that using unrounded numbers is kind of like a psychological trick to get people to spend more money, and they really only do that for the premium currency and not for the in-game one, which I really like. Now let's get into some of the other issues I have with the game so far. First things first, I want to see a very basic match history. I get it, the game's in beta, it's not fully released yet, but I really hope they actually implement this into the game because I know a lot of different games, they don't actually include this option. And I hope Omega Strikers isn't one of them. They have said before that competition in games is one of their primary goals, and this is based on the developer's website. A lot of competitive players, including myself, even though we're not actually competing for anything other than our rank, we like to see our match histories. Even something that's very rudimentary, such as your last 10 games. It'd be nice to see how many saves I made, how many redirections I had, how many shots I had, KOs, goals, etc. Just to kind of know in the back of my mind so I could estimate how well or how badly I did in each of those games. Again, it's still early, so I'm sure they have this plan down the pipeline, but I really do hope they actually include it because a lot of games, including mobile games, which is what this may be in the future, do not include a match history. Let's get back into the UI. I hate that you're not able to edit trainings while you're in queue. This goes back to our conversation about having all the customizations in one place like before, but I'm guessing you're not allowed to edit your trainings during queue because in that same menu where you adjust your trainings right now, where you click your name at the center of the screen, you could actually change your role in this menu, and they likely prevent adjusting your trainings so that you don't change your role while you're in queue. But what I'm proposing is that these should be two separate menus anyways. The trainings should be in customizations. Having to cancel your queue to even just look at your trainings needs to be changed as soon as possible, because although maybe I might not be able to save my training before I get into the game, I would really like the option to, just in case I get a long queue time, which sometimes does happen. What I love about the game is that it's very fast paced, even the champion select and queue times are really slick and it makes you want to play more and more, and that's all great, just let me change my trainings while I'm waiting for my next game. Adding to the previous point, for some reason you can't save training pages while you're in champ select. Instead, you can only choose the default trainings for each champion, your pages you saved before, or make a new temporary page that only lasts for this match. However, why can't my temporary page be saved for future use? Again, right now, the only way to make a new training page is to not be in queue, clicking on your name, clicking on a champion, adding the page, and then saving it right after. Last but not least, I want this game to improve communication within the game. While I often play with my friends, sometimes I solo or duo queue, and it'd be great to just communicate even a tiny bit with my teammate. I get it, they don't want people trash talking other people in game, but it's mind-boggling how there aren't any pings that say, I'm open, or watch out, or even a nice job. Wait, I don't see anything bad that can happen from that. But even something as simple as saying like, let's be more aggressive, or let's be more defensive, can really help as well. These little pings can also be translated to different languages, because if they don't want freehand typing, they could have all these preset options, which can be easily translated into every single language, so you can even communicate with people you normally couldn't before. Even being able to mark a point in the map with a signal would be great as well, because sometimes even if I'm in voice call with people, I'm like, oh, maybe I should stand here and there. That just doesn't help my teammates at all because they have no idea which place I'm actually pointing at. This is just a rough list of changes I would like to see in Omega Strikers. Maybe the developers see this, maybe they don't. But let me know which ones you agree with, which ones you don't agree with, and what other changes you'd like to see in the game. Again, I'm loving this game so far. I've been recommending it to all of my friends. They've been playing it, they've been liking it, but I'd say the main thing that they need to improve on is the UI and maybe making good moments even better, such as with the goal replays or the shorthanded goal overlays. But that's going to be it from me today. Hopefully you all enjoyed this, and I hope to see you all in our next video.